The phone rang just after sunset, when the house was quiet in that heavy way it gets before night fully settles. I remember because I had just turned off the kitchen light. One hand was still on the switch when I heard my phone vibrating on the counter. I wasn't expecting a call. Not at that hour. Not from him. When I saw my son's name on the screen, my first thought was that something had gone wrong with the flight. My chest tightened before I even answered. I picked up quickly. "Are you okay?" I asked. Before he could say anything, there was a pause on the other end. Not silence. Just breathing. Controlled. Too controlled. Then he said, quietly, "Mom, she's on my flight." I didn't understand. Not right away. My mind searched for context, for a normal explanation. "She?" I asked. "Who?" Another pause. Longer this time. "My wife," he said. "She's sitting 3 rows behind the cockpit. She just boarded." I laughed once. A short, confused sound. "That's not funny," I said. "She told me she was home. She said she was sick. I spoke to her this morning." "I know," he said. His voice was steady, but I could hear something underneath it. Strained. "That's why I'm calling." I leaned against the counter. My knees suddenly felt weak. "What do you mean she boarded your flight?" "I mean," he said slowly, "she's not at home. She's not where she said she would be. And she's flying somewhere she never mentioned." The kitchen felt too small all of a sudden. The walls too close. I looked around as if something in the room could explain what he was saying. "Where are you flying to?" I asked. "Chicago," he said. "Then I turn around and fly back." "Chicago." I said the word in my head, trying to attach meaning to it. She had no family there. No friends that I knew of. No work there. Nothing. "Did you talk to her?" I asked. "No," he said. "I saw her name on the passenger list. I thought it was a mistake. Then I saw her. She doesn't know I know yet." My heart was beating so hard I could hear it in my ears. "Maybe there's an explanation," I said, though even as I said it, the words felt thin. "Mom," he said, and his voice cracked just slightly. "She's wearing a coat I've never seen. She's not traveling light. And she looked prepared." Prepared. That word stayed with me. I slid down into the chair by the kitchen table. The same chair where she had sat just 2 weeks earlier, sipping tea and complaining about the weather. The same table where she had laughed and told me she was planning a quiet weekend at home while my son was away flying. I remembered that conversation clearly now. Too clearly. "I'll just rest," she had said. "Catch up on sleep. It's been a long week." I had believed her. "What do you want me to do?" I asked. "I don't know," he said honestly. "I don't know what to think. I have to fly this plane like nothing is wrong. But my hands are shaking." I closed my eyes. My son had always been calm, focused. He had trained for years to sit in that cockpit, to handle pressure, to keep hundreds of people safe in the air. Hearing him say that shook me more than anything else. "Listen to me," I said. "You do your job. You fly safely. We will talk when you land." There was another pause. "She told me she loved me last night," he said quietly. "She kissed me before I left." I keep thinking, did she already know she was leaving? I didn't have an answer. I didn't even have a guess that felt kind. "I'm here," I said. "Whatever this is, we'll face it." He exhaled slowly. "I have to go. Boarding's almost done. Call me when you land," I said. "I will." The line went dead. I sat there for a long time after that. The house was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. Outside, a car passed, tires hissing on the road. Normal sounds. A normal evening. And yet nothing felt normal anymore. I replayed the morning in my mind. Her voice on the phone, calm, casual. She had asked me how my garden was doing, asked if I was eating well. She had sounded like herself, or at least, like the version of herself I thought I knew. I stood up and walked through the house slowly, as if I were seeing it for the first time. I stopped in the guest room, where she sometimes stayed when my son was away. The bed was neatly made, too neatly. The closet door was slightly open. I hadn't planned to look. I didn't want to snoop, but something pulled me forward. Inside the closet, a few hangers were missing, not many, just enough to notice. I stepped back, my stomach tightening. I told myself not to jump to conclusions. People travel, people change plans. There could be a simple reason, but deep down, a quiet alarm had started ringing. I went back to the kitchen and sat down again. I checked my phone. No new messages, no explanation. No sudden, "I forgot to tell you." I thought about my son, thousands of feet in the air soon, doing his job with a secret sitting just behind him. A secret wearing a seatbelt. A secret with a destination. I thought about how many times I had defended her. How many times I had told my son, marriage is about trust. Don't overthink things. The irony burned in our past. Then too, I couldn't concentrate on anything. I tried to read. The words blurred. I turned on the television and turned it off again. Every sound made me jump. Finally, my phone rang again. It was him. They're serving drinks, he said quietly. She ordered wine. She never drinks on flights. That detail, small as it was, felt heavy, like another piece falling into place. Did she see you? I asked. No, she hasn't looked toward the cockpit. It's like she planned it this way. I swallowed. How long until you land? About 40 minutes. What will you do then? I asked. I don't know, he said. I keep imagining her walking off the plane like nothing happened, or disappearing into the terminal. I pictured it too. Her back as she walked away, her coat, her confidence. Don't confront her at the airport, I said gently. Not yet. You need answers, not a scene. He was quiet for a moment. Then, Mom, what if I don't like the answers? That question broke something in me. Then we take it one step at a time, I said. You're not alone. When the call ended, I felt older than I had that morning. Tired in a way. Sleep wouldn't fix. I waited. When he finally called again, his voice was flat, controlled, too calm. She got off the plane, he said. Didn't look back. Did you follow her? I asked. No, he said. I watched from a distance. She met someone. My heart dropped. Someone she knows? Yes. I closed my eyes. A man, he said. He hugged her. Not like a friend. I pressed my hand to my mouth. They left together, he continued. Didn't even look around. Like this was normal. I didn't speak. I didn't trust my voice. I went to the hotel, he said. I'm sitting here now, and I keep thinking, how long has this been going on? That was the question, wasn't it? Not just where she was going, but how long she had been living a second life. Did she take everything? I asked softly. No, he said. Just enough, just enough. After we hung up, I sat in the dark. I didn't turn on any lights. I didn't cry, not yet. I felt suspended, like everything was waiting for the next move. I thought about all the times she had said she was tired, all the weekends she had needed space, all the small changes I had brushed off because I wanted peace, and then another thought crept in, one that made my stomach twist. She hadn't just lied to my son, she had lied to me. She had looked me in the eye, asked me about my garden, talked about resting at home, all while holding a plane ticket in her bag. The betrayal wasn't loud. It was quiet, careful, planned, and as I sat there, my phone in my hand, one truth became painfully clear. This was only the beginning. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the house breathe around me. Every sound felt louder than usual. The clock ticking, the pipes settling, even my own breathing sounded foreign, like I was a guest in my own life. By morning, I felt hollow, not numb, hollow, like something had been taken out of me and left an empty space behind. I made tea and didn't drink it. I sat at the table and didn't eat. My phone stayed on the table in front of me, face up, like it might suddenly explain everything. I kept thinking back over the years, not just the recent ones, all of them. I raised my son mostly on my own. His father was there in name, in paperwork, but not in presence. I worked long hours, sometimes to jobs, because I wanted stability. I wanted my son to grow up knowing that even if life was hard, home was safe. He was a serious child, quiet, thoughtful. He liked books more than toys. When he said he wanted to be a pilot, I didn't laugh. I believed him. I worked harder. I saved more. I learned to stretch money in ways people don't talk about. There were years I didn't buy new clothes. Years I skipped doctor visits for myself. Years I told myself I'd rest later, after he was settled. When he got accepted into flight school, I cried in the bathroom so he wouldn't see. Not because I was sad, because everything I had carried suddenly felt worth it. He met her not long after he started flying commercially. He brought her home for dinner one evening. She smiled politely, complimented the food, asked me questions. She seemed attentive, respectful. I remember thinking, she's quiet, but kind. I welcomed her easily. Too easily, maybe. I had always believed that love grows when you make space for it. When they married, I helped where I could. Not just financially, but emotionally. I listened when they argued. I stayed neutral. I reminded my son that marriage is work. I reminded her that love changes shape over time. I thought I was helping. Looking back, I see how often I filled in gaps that weren't mine to fill. There were signs. Not loud ones. Subtle ones. She canceled plans often. Said she was tired. Said flying schedules were stressful. I believed her because I wanted peace. Because I wanted my son focused on his career, not on worry. She stayed with me sometimes when my son was away. Those nights felt normal. Too normal. We watched television. Talked about small things. She never mentioned feeling lonely. Never mentioned wanting more. I mistook silence for contentment. My son called later that morning. His voice was different. Not shaken anymore. Controlled. Tight. I didn't go to work today, he said. I called in sick. That's okay, I said. You need time. I keep replaying everything, he said. Every flight. Every goodbye. I know, I said. He was quiet for a moment. Mom, did you ever notice anything? The question landed heavy. I thought carefully. I noticed she kept things to herself, I said slowly. But I thought that was just who she was. He exhaled. So did I that afternoon. I went back into the guest room. This time I looked properly. The closet wasn't just missing hangers. The drawer at the bottom was empty. The one where she kept scarves and small things in the bathroom. Her toothbrush was gone. I sat on the edge of the bed, my hands resting on my knees. This wasn't a sudden decision. This wasn't an impulse. This was planned. I felt anger then. Not explosive. Quiet. The kind that settles deep and stays. I thought about my son flying that plane. About the trust required to sit behind the cockpit door. About how trust is invisible until it's broken. Later that week, he came home. He looked older. His shoulders slumped. His eyes tired. We sat in the living room without turning on the lights. The late afternoon sun came in through the window, cutting the room into golden shadow. She hasn't called, he said. Not once. Have you called her? I asked. Yes, he said. Straight to voicemail. We sat in silence. I feel stupid, he said suddenly. Like I missed something obvious. You trusted her, I said. That's not stupidity. He shook his head. I defended her. Even when people asked questions. Even when things didn't add up. I reached for his hand. He held it tightly, like he used to when he was a child crossing the street. I don't know who she is anymore, he said. Neither did I. Days passed. Then a week. Finally, a message came. Short, careful. She said she needed space. She said she was safe. She said she would explain later. Later. My son stared at the phone, reading the message again and again. She still won't tell me where she is, he said. Or who that man was. Do you want to know? I asked. He thought for a long time. I think I already do, he said. Life didn't stop. Bills still came. Flights still needed pilots. The world kept moving. But something fundamental had shifted. I noticed how my son moved through the house. Quieter, slower, like he was careful not to disturb something fragile inside himself. One evening, he said, Mom, what if she never comes back? I answered honestly. Then you will grieve. And then you will rebuild. He nodded, but I could tell the words hadn't reached him yet, because backstory isn't just memory. It's weight. It's years of belief colliding with reality, and both of us were just beginning to feel how heavy that collision really was. The waiting changed him. A T first. My son checked his phone constantly, every few minutes, as if staring at the screen might make it ring, as if attention alone could pull answers out of silence. He slept with the phone on his chest. He carried it from room to room. Even in the shower, he left the door open so he could hear it buzz. Nothing came. When another message finally arrived, it was vague again. Careful, controlled. She said she needed time. She said she felt confused. She said she didn't want pressure. Pressure. The word sat heavy between us when he showed me the message. I didn't raise my voice, he said quietly. I didn't accuse her. I just asked where she was. I nodded. And she turned that into pressure. He stared at the wall. She always does that. That was when I realized something important. This wasn't new. It had just never been visible before. Over the next days, the pattern became clearer. She controlled the conversation by giving as little as possible. A sentence here, a pause there, just enough to keep him waiting, just enough to keep him hoping. Hope became the leash. She would message late at night when he was tired and alone. She would say things like, "I miss you," or "I'm trying to figure things out," and then disappear again. Every time she did, I watched his shoulders tense, his eyes soften, his resolve weaken. "She still hasn't explained," I said one evening. "She says talking too much makes things worse," he replied. That sentence told me everything. Silence wasn't confusion. It was control. I didn't say that out loud. Not yet. I knew my son wasn't ready to hear it. When someone you love is holding the door half open, you don't want to believe it's on purpose. He started blaming himself. "Maybe I was too focused on work," he said one night. "Maybe I didn't listen enough. Maybe I missed signs." I listened. I let him speak. But inside, something hardened, because I remembered every time he had tried, every schedule he adjusted, every call he made from hotel rooms, every time he defended her when she didn't show up. This wasn't neglect. This was imbalance. She controlled when he got answers. She controlled what information he received. She controlled the pace of his emotions, and the more she pulled back, the more he leaned forward. One afternoon, he told me she wanted to meet, just briefly, just to talk. "Where?" I asked. "She didn't say," he replied. "She said she'd tell me last minute." That wasn't caution. That was power. When the meeting finally happened, he came home quiet. Too quiet. "She cried," he said. Said she felt trapped. Said she didn't know who she was anymore. "And the man?" I asked gently. He shook his head. "She said that wasn't the point." "Of course she did. She didn't deny it," he continued. "But she didn't explain it either. She said focusing on that was unfair." Unfair. I watched him struggle between anger and empathy, between logic and longing. She had framed the story so that any question he asked became an attack. That is how control works. You make the other person feel guilty for wanting clarity. After that meeting, things got worse. She began making requests. Small ones at first: money to get settled, time to heal, patience because she was overwhelmed, and my son, still in shock, still in love, still hoping, gave more than he should have. I said nothing. I waited. The breaking point came quietly. One evening, I found him sitting at the table, staring at a bank statement. "She used the joint account," he said flatly. "A large amount." "For what?" I asked. "She didn't say." I sat down across from him. "Did you ask?" He nodded. "She said I was making her anxiety worse." That was the moment the power imbalance became undeniable. She had left. She had lied. She had been seen with another man. And yet, she was still dictating the terms. I saw something shift in my son then. Not anger, awareness. "I feel like I'm disappearing," he said quietly. "Like everything revolves around not upsetting her." I reached across the table and placed my hand over his. "That's not love," I said gently. "That's control." He didn't argue. He just closed his eyes. Over the next few days, he stopped responding immediately. He asked direct questions. He set limits, and she didn't like that. Her messages became colder, sharper. She accused him of changing, of being distant, of not understanding her pain. The silence returned. He didn't chase it this time. That silence felt different, heavy, final. And somewhere in that quiet, something inside my son finally stood up straight. He wasn't healed yet. He wasn't strong yet. But he was no longer kneeling. The truth didn't arrive in a dramatic way. No shouting. No sudden confession. No moment where everything exploded. It came quietly, almost by accident. It started with a routine email. My son was preparing for his next flight rotation. As a pilot, everything had to be logged. Schedules, locations, layovers. He opened his airline portal to confirm dates when he noticed something strange, a request. Someone had requested access to his upcoming flight information, not a supervisor, not the airline, her name. He stared at the screen for a long time before calling me into the room. "Why would she need this?" he asked. I read the notification twice. "Have you shared this with her before?" "No," he said. "Never." He clicked deeper. There were logs, dates, access attempts. Some approved, some denied. "She's been checking my schedule," he whispered. "For weeks." That was the first crack. He didn't confront her immediately. Instead, he waited. He watched. He paid attention in a way he hadn't before, and the more he looked, the more patterns emerged. Messages she sent always lined up with his flights. Silence always followed his landings in certain cities. Her sudden availability always appeared when he was far away. It wasn't coincidence. It was calculation. Then came the second crack. A letter arrived at the house, addressed to him, from a financial institution he didn't recognize. Inside was a formal notice about a temporary address change request. Not approved yet. Pending confirmation. The address wasn't ours. It wasn't hers either. It was in another city, near the airport where his flight had stopped that night. The night she was visiting family. My son sat down heavily when he read it. She's trying to redirect mail, he said, using my name. That was no longer confusion. That was planning. He finally called her, not angry, not pleading, calm. I need you to tell me the truth, he said. All of it. There was a pause. A long one. Then she sighed. She didn't deny it. She said she had been exploring options. She said she felt lost. She said she didn't want to hurt anyone. I never meant to take anything, she added quickly. I just needed security. Security from a man she had left, from a marriage she had stepped out of. She spoke as if it was reasonable, as if it was natural. My son listened without interrupting. That alone surprised her. When she finished, he said one sentence. You tracked my flights. Silence. You accessed my information, he continued. You redirected my mail. You used our account without permission. She tried to soften it. I was scared. No, he replied. You were in control. That word landed hard. She grew defensive then. Accused him of spying, of being cold, of turning everything into accusations. He didn't argue. I'm ending this, he said quietly. And I'm protecting what's mine. She laughed at first. A small, disbelieving laugh. You wouldn't, she said. That's when he realized she had never believed he could. The next steps were methodical. He contacted the bank, froze accounts, changed access, documented everything. He informed the airline about the unauthorized access request. He gathered messages, screenshots, logs, not for revenge, for clarity. When he told me what he was doing, I felt a strange mix of relief and sadness. Relief that he was finally standing firm. Sadness that it had taken this much to open his eyes. A few days later, she showed up unannounced at the house. I opened the door. She looked smaller than I remembered, tired, defensive. Her confidence had cracks now. I need to talk to him, she said. He's not available. I replied calmly. She tried to push past me. This is between us. No, I said. This is about boundaries. She looked shocked, as if no one had ever stopped her before. He promised me things, she snapped. He said he'd always be there, and he was, I said evenly. Until trust was broken. She stared at me, searching for sympathy. I didn't mean for it to go this far, she said, but it did, I replied. And now he's choosing peace. She left without another word. That evening, my son sat quietly on the balcony, watching the sky darken. I feel stupid, he said. No, I answered. You feel awake. He nodded slowly. The power had shifted, not through shouting, not through punishment, but through truth. The quiet that followed felt unfamiliar, not empty, just still. For the first time in a long while, there were no unanswered calls, no messages, waiting, no tension hanging in the air when the phone buzzed. My son didn't celebrate the end. He didn't announce it. He didn't post anything or tell extended family. He simply stopped carrying something heavy. The next morning, he woke up early, not because of a flight, but because his body was used to being alert. He made coffee and sat at the table, staring at nothing for a long time. I keep expecting something to happen, he said. That's what peace feels like at first, I replied. Unfamiliar. He nodded, but I could see the weight still there. Not of regret, of processing. Over the next few weeks, life adjusted itself quietly. He flew again. Same routes, same airports, but something was different. He wasn't checking his phone every hour. He wasn't explaining delays to anyone. He wasn't trying to manage someone else's emotions while responsible for hundreds of lives in the air. He slept better. He laughed more easily, and slowly, the truth settled in. She hadn't just been somewhere she said she wasn't. She had been living a different version of reality. One where rules bent for her, where trust was optional, Where consequences were delayed by charm and confidence, that reality ended not with drama, but with boundaries. One afternoon, a letter arrived, an official one. She was disputing the account freeze, claiming misunderstanding, requesting reconsideration. My son read it once, then placed it back in the envelope. He didn't respond. Instead, he forwarded it to his lawyer and went for a walk. That choice mattered, not reacting, not defending, just standing firm. Weeks passed, then months. Her presence faded from daily conversation. Her name stopped coming up, not because it was forbidden, but because it no longer carried weight. One evening, my son sat beside me as the sun dipped low. "I keep thinking about the call," he said suddenly. "Which one?" "The night I said she wasn't at home." I stayed quiet. "That moment changed everything," he continued. "Not because of where she was, but because I heard myself say it out loud." He paused. I knew something was wrong before that. I just wasn't ready to admit it. I looked at him. "Readiness doesn't come when we want it to." He smiled faintly. "But it comes when it has to." There was no apology from her. In a moment of accountability, and strangely, that didn't matter anymore. The justice wasn't in her admitting anything. It was in him choosing differently. A year later, he invited me to the airport cafe during a long layover. We watched planes come and go. "I used to think love meant staying no matter what," he said. "Now I think it means staying honest, even when it costs you." I felt something loosen in my chest. He wasn't hardened. He wasn't bitter. He was clearer, and that was enough. Sometimes people expect endings to be loud. They expect revenge. They expect closure speeches. They expect tears and dramatic returns. But real endings often sound like this: a calm phone, a steady breath, a life that continues without chaos. My son didn't lose anything that day. He regained himself, and that, quietly, was everything.